In general, I would classify myself as being a fairly confident practice owner and entrepreneur. I feel confident in the way that I manage my finances. I feel confident in the way that I market our services. I feel confident in the way that we're building our brand and our team. I feel confident in our ethics. I feel confident in our treatment quality. I feel confident in making most business decisions. And there is one area that is throwing me for a loop right now where all of these insecurities are coming out. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you about the place right now where I'm second guessing myself and questioning myself and worrying. I'm pulling back the curtain for you today to tell you about my insecurities about office space. Yes. So if you are interested in hearing what is literally keeping me up at night, I swear to you, I was up from 3 until 4:30 this morning, last night, because of this, then I hope you enjoyed this episode. I did not realize that I had a lot of insecurities about office space until literally yesterday. I have never had my own dedicated office space for the primary Thriving Child Center clinic in my 10 years of owning this practice. Never. I have always been a subleaser, with one exception, which I'll get into in a little bit. But that wasn't my intention. That wasn't my dream. Actually, COVID changed the entire trajectory of this practice. So I'm going to give you the backstory on why I've never actually had office space where I was the primary holder of the lease. And then I want to talk to you about what it's bringing up for me because it's fascinating to me. And you may have an area like this where you feel this level of self-doubt, just like I do right now. When I started Thriving Child Center in 2016, I named it Thriving Child Center because I knew it would someday be a group practice. That was my dream from the beginning. And it was only half a day on Saturdays at the same time that I was working for Baylor College of Medicine. Now, if you're only working one day in person a week, you don't need your own office space. That would be a terrible business decision. So I subleased. So I just was there one day a week. And then over time, my caseload grew. I made my work at Baylor part-time. Then I subleased one office full-time so that I had that ability to see clients whenever I wanted in there. Then I decided that all of that time filled up and I said goodbye to Baylor and I was full-time in my office space that was a sublease. And I was happy there. I was comfortable. It was fun to be around these other clinicians, but I didn't own the space. I knew it was not forever. I knew that someday I would have my own office space. And I fantasized about the time that I would have this big, beautiful clinic and the door would have Thriving Child Center on it with my logo. And I would open the door and walk in and see all of the different offices and the clinicians that were there. And I just imagined what it would be like to have my own space. In my mind, that's what success was going to look like. And that was my plan. So I started getting ready for this vision. I was preparing to start my group practice. I already had one amazing clinician contractor working with me part-time, and she was kind of using my office space. We'd subleased one little room for her, but I was like, no, I'm going to go for it. So here I am looking at office space, getting ready to build out PCIT office space, because back then we didn't do PCIT virtually. No one did it that way except for a couple of researchers who they were ahead of their time. Everyone did this in person. So I knew it would be this extensive build out with these PCIT rooms. It was going to be very expensive. And I was literally meeting with the realtor to figure out the details of the build out that I was going to do the week that the world shut down in 2020 because of COVID. I barely avoided carrying an extremely expensive lease by a couple of weeks. If COVID had happened 1 month later, I would have had signed this lease, this very expensive lease, and be building out an office space that was unusable to me. But luckily, the timing was perfect because I'd already put a notice on my sublease. So I stopped having a sublease 2 months into COVID, and I didn't have office space at all. And at that point, I was like, I will never have office space again. Look what almost happened to me. I almost made my dream come true, and then it would have potentially sunk my business. But then I was able to move in a completely different direction. That's when everyone realized how amazing virtual PCIT is. I still truly feel that it is much better than in-person PCIT. All of our clients get better faster than they did when I was doing it in person because we're in their house coaching them. And it allowed me to hire psychologists from different SIPAC states. SIPAC became a thing in COVID. And so I built my business on a virtual model. Like, I will never, ever, ever be vulnerable that way again. And I actually never intended to ever have office space again, except for then I had some clinicians who were like, please, Leah, please, I really want to go back in person. Okay, so I found another sublease within a group practice that my friend owned. And gradually we ended up having 2 rooms in that space. And that felt very safe to me because, again, I didn't own that office space. I knew I could get out of it. And she has remarkable taste, my friend. This office space is beautiful and I didn't have to design it. Like, here's some of the things she does to make this office space beautiful. She got local artists to display their art throughout the office space so that theoretically you can buy the art right off the walls. So everything is always fantastic in there. But then it came time for me to leave that office space. And suddenly, here I am in this position of looking to have my own dedicated office space for the first time really ever. And I had no idea how scary that would be for me. And I'm in the ideal situation here. I have a friend who actually owns office buildings. He knew exactly what I wanted. He found me this perfect little space. It's only 2 rooms, but they're really nice off of this main waiting area. I can now have Thriving Child Center on the door. It's basically what I was paying for my sublease. Like, this is sort of what I've been wanting or thinking I wanted. And then the minute this starts to become true for me, I start panicking because I start thinking, this is what my panic sounds like. You don't know how to design office space. Maybe you're terrible at interior design. You're going to design really ugly rooms. And, when clients come in, they're going to be horrified by how bad you are at design. And your clinicians are going to be offended by the design aesthetic because now you're the one designing this and you've never designed office space before. And what if it is so ugly that no one wants to come in there? And last night, I was literally, this is unusual for me. So this speaks to how anxious this made me. I literally cried and told my husband that there was no way I was competent to design office space. Now, in the light of day, that makes no sense. Of course, I can design many little living rooms in this office space. But there's this part of me that wants to do extreme things. So this one voice in my head says, you don't really have to work that hard on this office space. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. Get in the bare bones of things. You don't need to do all the bells and whistles. Don't try that hard. Just put it together. Office space is a vanity thing, just like revenue is a vanity number, just like number of therapists is a vanity metric. People don't really care what your office space looks like. You don't need to brand it. It doesn't need to be special. As long as people are providing good care and it looks good enough, you're fine. So that's one voice. The other voice in my head goes the opposite direction. It says, hire an interior designer. Make it the most beautiful branded upscale office space possible. In fact, don't take this little 2-office clinic that is actually what you really need because most of your clinicians are virtual. Don't go with that. Get a bigger space. Get a space with this full kitchen and a meeting room, like make it the thriving child center you wanted to build in 2020. Who cares about the expense? And hire an interior designer. And then when people come to your office space, they'll be like, wow, this is a successful practice. You don't need any of this, but you should do this. So there's this part of me that wants to like not care about it, sort of be like, I didn't even try, which is not my MO. And then there's a part of me that wants to overinvest in this way that makes no sense at all. And then there's the like more reasonable part of me that's like, what you need to do, Leah, is just design some basic office space and make it look nice, put real effort into it, but like do it within a reasonable budget, do it within some reasonable parameters. Like your office space doesn't have to prove something about you. Like everything is fine. Just create these 2 rooms in this waiting room and tell everyone about it, and it will be okay. And that is probably the reasonable voice. That's a voice that I'm listening to a lot more today than I was listening to at night last night when the panic was sort of ensuing. But I think it is so interesting that I am so concerned about being judged for this space. I think it's the level of responsibility for taking my vision and making it physical. Taking my vision and making it virtual in a website feels fine. Talking about my vision, fine. Creating the actual business, fine. But it's something about translating it and what that means that suddenly feels scary. And obviously, all of you therapists listening to this all know that this has something to do with COVID, right? And the mistake I barely avoided, and that near miss, and the fact that somehow I've decided that no office space of your own equals safety. Now, here's the real irony. Are you ready for this? I'm going to confess something to you. We do have dedicated office space on the other side of town in the Woodlands for my forensic psychologist. And I have never even been there. I'm not even kidding. She found the office space. She decorated the office space. I don't even know what it looks like. And somehow that feels safe to me. Paying for it doesn't feel scary. It's the designing it and then owning it in that way that feels scary. Isn't that just interesting? How this kind of thing can come up for us? And clearly, I just need to figure this out. And then afterwards, my confidence will just grow, right? This is one of those obvious situations of I'm afraid of something that's not actually dangerous. This is not that important, really. And I can still do this good job and create an office space that everybody likes. I just wanted to share this moment of complex insecurity with you because I feel like it's good for you to hear it. And it might be happening to you too, maybe about something that has nothing to do with office space. Maybe you're like, yeah, I know how to curate office space that's reasonably priced and represents me and looks good and I feel confident. But maybe it's the copy on your website that makes you feel insecure. Or maybe it is talking about yourself and explaining your specific micro niche and why it's important. Or maybe it's setting limits with the people that you're working with, right? Like there are all these different places that these things can show up. And you can think you have it all together and then get blindsided by a couch like I did last night. So if you find this helpful and you like this level of realness, keep listening to the Worth It Practice podcast. If you want someone who will non-judgmentally help you when you are afraid of the metaphorical couch office space like I am, and you need to have someone help you take a step back, see the broader picture, and still approach something that's making you anxious, I can be really helpful for you. Because so many of these things are scary at first. If this were my 4th clinic, I wouldn't be scared. It's just because it's my first real one. And maybe I should go over to my other office space and actually look at it. And maybe that would be helpful as well. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're full of confidence. I hope you are feeling with the deep knowledge that you know what you're doing and that every single person, I guarantee you, has these moments behind the scenes. and I will talk to you again next week.